Week 14 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few kickers that have his sleepers this week. The first guy, Greg Zuerlein of the New York Jets. So Greg Zuerlein, season he's been on this list a whole lot, and rightfully so. Greg Zuerlein, he's been 50% pretty much of the Jets scoring this season. So Zuerlein's getting a lot of opportunities. It hasn't mattered who the quarterback's been for this Jet team. They just can't find the end zone. Tim Boyle, before he got cut loose, started 2 games for the Jets. Zach Wilson, we saw him the first 11 weeks of the year. I said it doesn't matter who's back there, quarterback for the Jets. All season long, Zuerlein's getting opportunities, and this Jet team just can't find the end zone. So this week with the Houston Texans coming to town, where they're middle of the pack defense, I think once again Greg Zuerlein could have a decent game. So the last few weeks from week 10 at Vegas, 16, week 11 at Buffalo, he didn't get an opportunity. Week 12 versus Miami, 1, and week 13 versus Atlanta, 7 in that one. So week 14, like I said, versus the Texans, incoming 2 or 3 field goal attempts, I believe, here for Greg Zuerlein, and he's available right now, 93% of fantasy leagues. The next kick is Cairo Santos of the Chicago Bears. Cairo Santos, he's been a long-time Chicago Bear now, and he's been an accurate and a pretty solid kicker the last few seasons, and he's put up fantasy points the last 3 games. Week 10 versus Carolina, 12. Week 11 at Detroit, 17. And week 12 at Minnesota, 14. So this week, Detroit once again, the Chicago Bear team versus. Back to week 11 in that shootout, even though I know it was indoors at Detroit, he did have 17 fantasy points. And right now, this Bear offense is throwing out a whole lot. It's giving more opportunity to Cairo Santos, and he's making the most of it. So right now, available 98% of fantasy leagues. And if you need a kicker, I think Santos once again could deliver solid numbers in that third and final kicker. I have as a sleeper this week's Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, available 98% of fantasy leagues. This is a Tampa Bay offense for the majority of the season that they've stalled out as well on drives. But I know the last few weeks have been quiet for McLaughlin. Week 11 at San Francisco 2, week 12 at Indianapolis 8, and week 13 versus Carolina 3, but week 14 a great matchup at the Atlanta Falcons. Indoor game, which is always a plus, and they do give up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So they're bend but don't break type of defense for the majority of the season. So the way it fits with this offense of Tampa throwing out a lot, and this Falcon defense stopping teams in the red zone, forcing them to kick field goals. It's a good matchup this week. So that's a few kickers I have as sleepers for week 14 of the fantasy football season.